Here at Be Freaking Awesome, we believe that life is too short to be anything less than extraordinary. Join us as we explore what it means to live authentically, grow continuously, and have a blast while doing it. Let's get started.
Last week, we talked about metacognition and how to watch your thoughts. And this week, we are going to talk about what you're actually going to find when you start looking. Spoiler, it's a little chaotic in there. Okay, I got a stat that is crazy. Crazy. Up to 80% of our daily thoughts are negative, and 95% of them are the same thoughts as the day before. So most of us are just running on the same mental loops on repeat, and we didn't even write those loops. And we will drop that stat in the chat for you. I mean, in the show notes, because I want to make sure that we reference that, because that's some crazy stuff. 95% are the same as the day before.
I feel like it needs
Yeah, I don't believe that at all. I'm like, what? That's why I was like,
no, that's fine on the stat, but it needs spoiler, it's a little chaotic in there.
I just don't know how to get to that.
Like, what's the question? No, not the stat. Like, what's a question that leads us to this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to unpack this. I guess you said that this week we're going to look at what you have to find. It's a little chaotic. Okay, well then you said it's a little chaotic in there, and then I'm just going to jump in. I'll edit back to that point. You good?
No. I just feel weird about saying a stat that I don't necessarily believe until
I don't know that you should say.
I'm like, well, you said drop the stat in, and then I'm like,
I didn't read the whole stat. That's what I thought you were doing. Anyway.
Yeah, hold on one second. It's just giving me some. It's widely cited, not verified.
There you go.
Okay, Queen's University. I believe that one. If someone presses you for a citation, there's no clear. You want a credible replacement. Negativity bias research. He's the one that talks about automatic negative thoughts.
So,
see, I think that 80% sets up next week's. I don't think that we put that stat in there.
Well, that's fine. It also, from what my chat said, the stat is not verifiable. And a couple of people have dug into it and have concluded the survey behind this data was not a scientific survey. And it is what some people call a zombie stat. It spreads because it sounds right, but nobody can find the original.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to eliminate all that stat thing.
Yeah. So I will jump in.
So here's what I'm going to do. I got you. Spoiler alert. It's a little chaotic in there. And if you look on the internet, there's some crazy statistics, like we have 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% of them are negative. 95% are the thing the day before. Who knows if that's really true and how anybody can actually know that that is true? The bottom line is that there are a lot of thoughts that just run on automatic that are not necessarily serving us.
I love it. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode. I'm one of your hosts, Sammy Kinnison, here with Angela Belford. I'm super excited to be continuing our series on our thinking and us learning new words to put to the things that we have known for a long, long time. And so this week, specifically digging into cognitive distortion and what's happening in our chaotic thoughts and all of those things. Angela, will you take a moment and just introduce us to what even is cognitive distortion?
Yeah, what's funny is that I think about some of the therapists that listen to this podcast or have told us they listen from time to time, and they're going to be like, how did you not know what cognitive distortions was? I'm like, because I'm not a therapist. I am a certified life coach. Let's be clear. When we're talking about it here, we are sharing things that we've experienced. I want to give a shout out a little bit to an app that I've been playing around with. It's called Liven. And I read this article about this woman that was struggling with gaining weight, and she got her hormones checked, and she made sure all the right things. Her doctor's like, it's just menopause, and it wasn't. It was actually her cortisol was off, and so Liven is what she used to try to help get her nervous system back under control. It's just a tool in the toolbox. But that's where I'm learning some of this new information. So just want to give a shout out. I don't know. I probably have a referral code, but whatever. Let's talk about cognitive distortions. And when we start talking about them, you guys are going to be like, if you listened last week, you'll be like, I know about that. Many of us have heard the cognitive distortion catastrophizing. Other examples are all or nothing thinking, should statements. We say a lot. Don't should on yourself. And you have to say it out loud. Should, because otherwise it can sound really
Sound like a
weird.
different thing? They would give us an
Can
explicit
sound
rating?
weird. Yeah. Other ones that I maybe didn't really think about it as a cognitive distortion is overgeneralization or mental. Nope.
I never do overgeneralizations.
Thank you. Jumping to conclusions. Oh, I thought you were gonna.
I know, I couldn't think of one in the moment. Wow, what a conclusion for you to jump to that I would immediately have a fast answer for that. That's such a conclusion jumper you are.
Other ones in the category that I may not be able to give you a quick example, but because we can't go into everything, but inappropriate blaming.
Oh, my son does that all the time.
Labeling, mental filtering, or emotional reasoning. Those of you that are like, oh my gosh, they're so emotional, they don't use logic. Sometimes that can be a cognitive distortion.
Can I read the definition?
Yeah.
Cognitive distortion is biased thought patterns that warp how we see reality. So it is not necessarily something that is a character flaw or that your brain is doing right or wrong, but it is something that was a pattern or even something that your brain may have gotten really good at to help keep you safe and to protect you. It may have worked and helped you and served you. So often we talk about, occasionally people will be like, yeah, this negative thought serves me. These negative beliefs that I have that I need to unpack, it serves me. It motivates me. And okay, but they're not always right. They aren't always, they're not necessarily accurate. And so figuring out and identifying, being able to name these things is helpful so that then you can know what they are. I am curious about labeling as one of the cognitive distortions, because here I am saying you should name your cognitive distortions. Is that not labeling of them? But I'll let you go deeper on that. Is there any on the list, Angela, that you like, ugh, gosh, I do that one more than others? Is there one that you do more than others?
I don't. Do you see one that I do more than others?
No, I don't know.
I was like, okay.
I think that's a really funny whisper. I'd love to include that in there.
Okay, when you ask that question, my brain just goes blank because I think about, and maybe because in the series we've been talking about me writing Be Freaking Awesome, and I just want to pause and say the reason why I wrote it is because people were starting to hear my story that I had experienced hunger and homelessness and all kinds of childhood trauma. And they were like, how do you go from all that to all this? And I was like, well, I don't know. And I wrote it down and said, these are the things that I did. And basically it's just like, here's my toolbox. It was certainly not meant from a perspective of like, I am the paragon of virtue. I'm just like, hey, this is what I packed on my journey. Need to put some granola bars. Don't forget the jack so that if you have a flat tire, like that's how I kind of my perspective.
Oh, and the traveling light is like, you may not need the 64-ounce tub of peanut butter.
Right. Traveling light, I feel like I'm much more like, oh, now I had to figure out that those tools, some of them were serving me and some of them were not, like skipping over validating my feelings. And so when I look at this list, I think about times in my life when I was so much worse. I think that I probably, if I had to pick one that I do but I do it. I trick myself and I'm subtle about it, is the should statement.
Mm.
And mine sounds a little more like, "Oh, I need to do that. Oh, I meant to do that." And, like, it's not in a way that is like, "Oh, let me just write it down." It, like, I literally, as I said it, like, I felt my, like, stomach clench up when I thought
Mhm.
about, "Oh my gosh, I didn't get that thing done." And so
Mhm.
it's not, I think I've trained myself to not say should, but I'm doing the same thing. So
Mhm.
that's the one I probably still work. I'm sure I'm working on all of these at different levels because I'm not saying I don't ever say always never. Um,
I think that for me, it is a lot of these. And like you said, it is tricking myself in them. I like to think that because I'm farther along on my journey than like your average Joe Schmo, that I'm obviously healed and great and amazing, and I don't have any of these problems. I never experience any of these things. She says facetiously as she's using an all or nothing statement and an overgeneralization, two for one. And so I think because of that, there can be a trick that as you get more quote healed, you're like, "No, I'm above that. I don't do those anymore." And you really are. You're just getting more sophisticated about it, and it's harder to catch. It's very easy to catch a lying 3-year-old. It's not as hard to catch a lying 17-year-old. Like, it's just getting your brain is finding new ways, more sophisticated ways to process information and keep you safe. And so it's interesting and it's so fun. We talk about like peeling back layers of the onion or getting to that new level, and you still have to deal with some of the same things
oh
but at a
goodness.
deeper level and than you did before. So, fun little side journey on that. Why don't we can you take a moment? Let's deep dive into a couple of these and can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah. So the ones that I want to talk about a little bit deeper are all or nothing thinking, catastrophizing, should statements, and labeling, which those are kind of close. I see these a lot in my coaching clients. One of them with all or nothing thinking, it would be like, "Oh my gosh." What I actually see is, "Oh, I bombed that presentation. I'm so bad at public speaking.
Mhm.
I missed one workout, so now my whole week is ruined. Oh, I ate something off of my eating plan. Now the whole day or the whole week is blown." And so that is, I think we are, especially as high achievers, really prone to this because we have very high standards. And so it like it it messes with our brain of like, no, 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 I believe myself. I talked about in the last episode. I really like to follow my calendar. It's really important to me. And so then, oh no, I was disrespectful because I didn't follow my calendar and I had this person and it's like, so I think this is probably one that so I said I don't struggle as bad with all of them, and here we go. I messed up on my calendar. Look at you guys helping me find those. Some of the ways that you could reframe this is to, um, I was 70% today, or what's the middle ground that you could use? So, Josh, if those of you that have listened for a long time, Josh used to ask, like, give me a rating of your day on a scale of 1 to 10, and he was always like 8.3. And he said, "Mom, I could probably only have a 10 like on the day that I was married and maybe when my kids are born." And I'm just like, wow, I think you can have a 10. A November 10 might be a January 8. Anyway, so
It's
he
like a
was
New York
definitely
6 as a Arkansas 9.
Anyway, for leaders, this distortion can feel like when somebody is giving us feedback, it can feel like a indictment or verdict against us instead of information.
Yeah, I think that I find myself at times having to no, hold on. There is a survey that has always stood out to me that talks about how parents overall, people who are parents are less happy than people who are not parents. And when you dig into the study methods, what's fascinating about it is that they would ask people throughout the day at like random times, would send them a text message, you got to rate yourself right now. And in individual moments, yes, parents rate themselves significantly less happy, but upon reflection, interestingly enough, people who are not parents actually rate their days worse. Like if you said, how was all of today? Whereas at the end of the day, a parent would actually rate their day overall better. And I think about that not just in the sense of parents, but when I'm thinking about like, how was my day? Am I judging it moment to moment, or am I judging the summation of all its parts? And can the sum of the parts be greater than the whole? And does one bad moment does not need to make the definition for my entire day? And so I think about that a lot. Let's jump to the next one, catastrophizing.
Catastrophizing. I think surely, well, I don't know. I want to say all of us have done it.
This is like a landmine of episodes where we just have to be like, oh no, we did it again. We do this all the time, apparently. We never do this. And then we're
We
doing it
never
all
do
over the
this,
place.
and then we're doing it the whole time. Catastrophizing would be like, oh no, my friend didn't text me back. They don't want to be my friend anymore. My boss didn't like my idea. I'm getting fired. It's
Mhm.
like your brain fast forwards to the worst possible outcome and imagines everything. I read somewhere that was like, I don't want to say like generalized anxiety disorder because that is a diagnosis, but for those of us that struggle with anxiety or anxious thoughts, it is often because we are imagining constantly the worst case scenario instead of using that beautiful creative mind and that creative skill to also imagine some good skills.
I also think that it's interesting because you and I have a coaching tool that we will pull out with people to ask them, what's the worst thing that genuinely could happen if your boss didn't like your idea? And and we actually try to help people understand like your nervous system can handle it even if
Mm,
that worst thing happens.
yeah.
And we're going to imagine being in that spot because our nervous system struggles to figure out the difference between an imagined threat and a real threat. And so we're going to like
Yes.
play it out and see what happens. And it is a cognitive distortion because it's super unlikely that your boss is going to fire you after one bad thing. I had a training this week where I was talking with a team and I got to remind them that if you handle a hard conversation poorly, it is extremely unlikely that you are going to get fired on the spot. And I said, if you came in here and you spray painted a curse word on the wall of your children's clinic, you're probably going to get fired on the spot. If you cry because your boss says, "Hey, I need you to do your job better," and you get welled up with tears and say, "I need a moment. Can we come back to this conversation?" You're probably not going to get fired. Like that would probably not cause your boss to fire you. Putting a curse word on the wall probably will. And we do that though. We like because so many of them were like, "It is. I am afraid of getting fired if I handle this." And the owner of the company, she was like, "I've literally never fired anyone, so no."
That's funny because I used to have the experience where I would send somebody a Slack when I worked in the same office space as my team. Um, is that I would say, "Hey, can you come see me?" And they would come in, close the door, and they'd close the door, and I'm like, "Hey, I've been thinking about this thing," and blah 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 blah, blah. And they would go, "Oh, oh my gosh, I thought I was getting in trouble." It
I got
wasn't
called
that
to the
they,
principal's office.
yes, and I was like, "You guys have PTSD.
I
What in the world?"
I got called to the principal's office when I was in high school once, and I was the whole walk there from the band room, which is the worst time to get called out to go to the principal's office, by the way, is when you're in the middle of band with 300 other kids. Um, and I get to the principal's office and I sit down and he goes, "Sammy," and I was like, "Yes." And he goes, "Is this your car?" And he like reads off the license plate and I go, "Yeah." I'm like, "Did I park it wrong? What's happening?" And he goes, "I have it on good authority that there is a snapping turtle inside your car." I'm sorry, what? Like, this was nothing that I thought was going to happen here. What is going on?
You do not have enough creativity to imagine.
To have imagined there's a snapping turtle in your car and the principal would like to make sure that you. And so he asked me to go get my car keys to go verify if this was true or not true. And then if I could not get the snapping turtle out, bring my keys to him and he would make sure it was properly taken care of. Because
Aw.
some kids were bragging about they dropped a snapping turtle in the open window of this car in the parking lot because I had no AC, so I always had to leave my windows cracked. And they stuck a turtle in my car. And you never know what's going to happen, okay? Don't need to catastrophize. It could be a snapping turtle in your car, and which I did have the
And
principal
now
go and
you've
handle
just
it.
given somebody like, oh my gosh, what if somebody dropped a snake in my car? Now they have a whole different set of things.
A whole different set of catastrophizing.
The way that you can help with the catastrophizing is to think about how likely is this?
Yes.
What's the odds that this would happen? So you can run the scenario of what then would happen. What then would happen? It's funny because I actually used that story. I started doing that with Sammy when she was 4, and I tell that story in there when she didn't want to get on the bars at the gymnastics. And I'm like, well, what could happen? Well, I could hurt myself. I could go to the hospital, and maybe, do you think it is likely that and I did say that, do you think it is likely that I would encourage you to do something that would cause you to go to the hospital? No. Because my refrain, we did not have a lot of money. So my refrain was, be careful. I don't want to take you to the hospital. Be careful, be careful, be careful. I mean, I was too much on that, which probably is what programmed you. Anyway, next up,
Yes. What's next up?
Should. Yes. Okay. So I should be further along by now. Oh my goodness gracious. This is the one that probably I hear so often from people, especially from that like 25 to 45. And there's probably plenty of 50-year-olds that are like, nope, me too. I should have been further along by now. We have such in our culture where we're just going and we romanticize the people that, made $1 million by they were 21, that that they like, we have this measuring stick. They shouldn't just know better. They should know better. And I have had to explain to so many people, like, they're like, oh my gosh, this person should just know this. And I'm like, okay, well, let me explain to you. When you're raised in a trailer park and then you experience homelessness and then you do this and you do this, and I just laid out my scenario. I'm like, we are never, ever taught what fork to use. Like, never. And so I use whatever their thing is. And I'm like, okay, well, I never knew that. I didn't know that was a thing. And so
Recently, even within that, somebody in my life I know ended up with lice and is an extended family member, and they were like, can you believe that she didn't know that she should like wash all of her sheets and like all the stuffed animals and all of the things, and how she didn't know that? Can you believe that? And I'm like, yeah. If you've never had lice before and you didn't know, like, oh wait, that's not just one thing, that's like
right.
all the things. Yes, it's possible that somebody didn't know that. She should have known that. Where was she supposed to learn that?
I am the queen of saying, here's some of the things that you can do. This one does disguise itself as high standards. And so I will say, we're going to say it out loud. We're going to say it out loud, because if you're a leader and you think that your team should just know something and these are kind of the assumptions, then I think it's important for us to say it out loud. Interesting. Another idea is to swap that from I should to I want to, it would help, I would get better. So I think I'm on my journey on my shoulding.
I would also say though that you can get dangerous if you say another way that this can show up poorly is if you're like, hi partner, you should do these things, and like, and you're like, no, I'm going to reframe. It would be helpful if you did these things. Let's be really clear. Can you do this thing for me?
Yes.
Yes or no? We'll go back to our episode about expectations and agreements, shoulds that we have for other people. Got to go listen to that whole episode, because if they didn't agree to that thing, it's pretty unrealistic for us to expect them to do that thing, that they should have known to do this. Nope. Get agreement.
It's interesting because last week's episode, I talked about loving what is. And the example that has just stayed with me for all these years is she had her kids would, like, when they were at the couch, her and her kids and her husband, they would just take off their socks while they're watching TV and never pick them up. And it would just make her crazy and make her crazy and make her crazy. And she's like, they don't love me. They don't care about me. They don't see me, blah, blah, blah. And then one day she was just like, this is dumb. They don't care that there's socks in the living room. I care. I'm going to pick them up. Furthermore, I'm going to pick them up and I'm going to think, someday they're going to be gone and I'm going to miss them. And she said the craziest thing happened. My family started seeing how much and she said, I brought joy to picking up the socks. And over time, her family started picking up the socks. Not because she belittled them, not because she yelled at them, not all of those things, but they saw that it brought her joy to have a clean living room and they started picking up socks. Anyway, that's the story she tells in there. And so, along with the shoulding, sometimes people ain't going to do it.
I
And
love
is
it.
it really going to
I
rob your
don't love it.
happiness? Yeah. I know it's hard to hear when and yeah, I think when you're trying to train little kids how to do it well, it's very different thing. But you got to, it's balance. Let's go on to labeling. This is the last one that we can talk about today
And it's a
because
little confusing.
it is a little bit confusing. So labeling would be saying, I'm such an idiot. She's a narcissist. He's just lazy. So it's like
Mm,
one action becomes the permanent identity for yourself or someone else. So the thing about it is that when you label someone as lazy, that makes it sound final. It's a very
mhm,
fixed mindset. And doing um doing this instead a better approach and a way to go about this is to label the behavior. So it's not
mhm,
to label and judge. I think labeling might be a little bit of a misnomer, but it's almost like judging somebody. The whole she's a narcissist. Let's start there. Not start there. I just want to touch on that a little bit longer. So many people are like, oh my gosh, they're such a narcissist. Oh, he's such a narcissist. Blah, blah, blah. And I am over it, right? Because we all, as humans, have narcissistic tendencies. All of us. That's what keeps us alive. Narcissistic narcissism disorder is an actual diagnosis.
mhm.
And so what I prefer to say, and I feel like is more helpful and gives me a break, wow, their narcissistic tendencies are really front and center these days. Because I don't know if they are actually a narcissist. They're probably just being selfish.
I think this
They are
goes back
acting in a
to
way that is selfish.
so much of, I think you cover this both in Be Freaking Awesome and Traveling Light, and we talk about this a lot. When you're making identity statements
Yes.
on yourself, on others, you've got to be very aware that that has power and that has meaning. And I like truly believe the words that we say have immense power to them. And we have the power to create things and to confirm and to claim things. And so when you're saying, I am an idiot, I am dumb, I can never do this, like that's you're gonna make that more likely to be true. When you say, "Man, I didn't handle that situation the way I wanted to." You can label the behavior. Let's not label the person.
Yes.
And that is really where the cognitive distortion and it kind of is within the overgeneralization to even say somebody like somebody's always lazy, he's always lazy or he is lazy. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's not interested in doing schoolwork, but when it comes to practicing for sports, he is out there doing his 1,000 kicks against the wall to be a better soccer player. That's not a lazy person. That's somebody who doesn't like to do homework and is
Right.
being a diligent in somewhere else in their life. I think that when we got to be very, very cautious to to give people identity statements. I'm even really aware for my children, like I have 2 sons and a daughter, and I am very painfully aware that my daughter is going to be called beautiful more often than she's gonna be called smart. And I just because society, like, comments on women's physical appearance more than they comment on men's physical appearance. And so I want to be very purposeful to give her identity statements that are outside of how she looks and that she's very clever, she's very funny, and she's a really good friend. She's a great caretaker. And I do a lot of things like that. I do it with all of my kids that I let them know these are the things I see in you. And they don't have to be identity statements. They can be, some of them are, some of them I do want to affirm good, positive identity. And some of them are behaviors. And so
And some of them are character traits.
Some of them are character
Oh,
traits.
way to show kindness. Thank
Right.
you for showing kindness. You know, like, here's the
Mhm.
other thing is about the being lazy is especially as we now look and see how many people are undiagnosed ADHD, then you're like,
Oh my
um,
gosh.
yeah, I was told repeatedly, you'd forget your head if it wasn't attached. And
Mhm.
so people would just say terrible things to me, and I was undiagnosed ADHD. You know,
Yeah.
I feel grateful. I thought I was diagnosed late. I was diagnosed when I was 32. And so I feel grateful that I was diagnosed at 32 instead of at some of my friends are in their 50s and they're like, "Oh my gosh, they take their kids in their 40s or 50s take their kids for testing." Anyway, I also I will say I don't even label myself with the ADHD. I will say, "Oh, my ADHD brain is offering this thought." And
Mhm.
so, um, I don't wanna label myself that
It doesn't have to
it's a super
define you.
it doesn't have
It's
to
a
define me.
part of you, but it's
Yeah.
not the defining it's not a defining thing.
Yeah,
It's
I often will
nuanced.
say, "I enjoy most moments of my ADHD, but not this one. Hold on."
Mhm.
So this one, the way we reframe this is thinking about like, instead of saying I'm a bad person or I'm a this, I'm a that, then it's really about name the behavior. I
Mhm.
want to do better. I also think people are saying, oh, I'm bad with names. I'm like, stop saying you're bad with names. Say, I'm getting better with names. I'm working on getting better with names. I want to be better with names. All of those things are ways that we are affirming who we are becoming.
Mhm. I love it. So, this was cognitive distortions in lightning speed, 30
Yeah.
minutes or less. So, there's so much more that you can learn about and dig into these, unpack with your therapists, if you will, and
Yeah.
all of the things. Angela, do
And
you
we
have
didn't
any?
even get into my last thing that I wanted to talk about. We have to have a third episode on this.
Okay.
Automatic negative thoughts. There's just so much on this. I don't want to keep going. We're going to do that on next time. Automatic negative thoughts
Okay.
because these distortions can lead to that.
Yeah. And I cut you off last time from talking about it.
Yeah, I
And
know.
sorry, friends, 2 weeks. It's a good series. It's a good series.
Okay,
We're
these those that are mine is this is a who killed JR moment for you.
don't know what that means, but okay. Angela, do you
That's
have
okay.
any?
You do office references that I don't know what it means. So
Fair, fair. Um, Let me ask my question. Goodness. If
go.
you have an encouragement for us as we are starting to think about this more, maybe this is brand new, maybe it's a refresher. Any encouragement for us this week?
I think it's along the same lines that we talked about last week. It is that you don't have to fix everything. Number one, you're not broken. There's
Ooh,
nothing broken about you. You don't have to fix it.
nothing, huh? All or nothing. Sorry.
You're not broken.
I would agree.
There is a way that is not serving you. There is a behavior, there's a thought pattern, there's a feeling that is not giving you the results you want. You've been running an experiment for a long time, you've been running on autopilot. And so I would say the very first step is to notice it
Hmm.
and to try to catch yourself if you should. Try to catch yourself. Like we've been doing in this episode. We're like, oh, there we go, all or nothing. Oh, there we go, overgeneralization. And so that just very thought will help you. Also, I want to remind you about behavior change. And
Mm.
when this is sometimes a long process, right? So we're going along and we make a mistake and we keep going. And a week later, we figure out, oh, last Monday, I said that all wrong. And then we go and somebody points it out to us. And then we go along and 3 days pass. Wait, 3 days ago, I said something wrong. We go back one day. Yesterday, I said something wrong. Keep going, make a mistake again, the same mistake, and it feels like we're making the same mistake over and over and over again. I see this in marriages where people like get frustrated with their husband and they get to the point where they're like catching it an hour after. Oh my gosh. Then they catch it as it's happening and then they catch it before it happens. And have the grace and compassion with yourself and others when we are working on behavior. I work with somebody closely and they are like, "Well, I just can't change. I'm X age." And I'm like, "No, that's not true. I've actually seen you change and I love it's hard because I'm like, you hurt my feelings and you're getting better. Like,
Right.
you still have an area to work on. And so just know that behavior change takes time, and
And
even just the going and getting closer and closer to the
yeah,
actual moment of mistake or thing, I don't know, mistake, whatever you
the
don't
thing
want.
you're wanting to change.
Yeah, it will take time, and it's okay that it takes time.
I
And that
think
doesn't just overgeneralize and say, I'll never get this.
that area, that time on the timeline, that's where we need to pay attention to the improvement,
Yeah.
because we're going to get discouraged if we keep doing the thing.
Yeah.
Try to be encouraged by the speed of which you are realizing and how that is improving, and the speed of which other people in your life are realizing and noticing and cluing in a little bit faster. So I love the timeline of change. Well, I love the visual of it. I don't love that it's not just like snap
Yep.
your fingers and make the change. So that's
It's
good.
not.
Super good encouragement for us.
But next week, we actually are going to talk about automatic negative thinking because
We
it's
are.
trigger, and we're going to talk about sensations, or talk about feelings, and tune back in. Ouch, 'cause I ripped my headphones out. I tell people all the time, you should watch on YouTube. It's way more entertaining.
Well, until next time, everyone, we hope you guys go be freaking awesome.